Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody, welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is our TNA show for the week. First off, we're going to start off with the so-so segments. Basically the stuff that's not bad, not good, pretty much just forgettable. First song we're going to talk about, the opening segment with Eric Young, Dixie Carter, and Bully Ray. At this point, Dixie Carter has been stripped of power television-wise. I don't know why she keeps coming on TV other than to stroke, obviously, her ego. Unfortunately, that happens to people. It happened to Eric Bischoff. It's, Hulk Hogan. Several wrestlers in the past and management officials have liked the spotlight so much they didn't know when to get out of it. And Dixie seems to be one of those, which drug the segment down. Bully Ray coming out, I understand he's somewhat in a feud with Dixie Carter. It made a little bit of sense. Him overly endorsing Eric Young, whether he's Eric Young's friend or whether he endorses him or not, it just doesn't fit Bully Ray's character. Even as a face, it doesn't fit his character. So it was just a little bit weird for me. Next up, we had what should have been a good match. Bobby Roode versus Gunner in a tables match. It was mucked up and muddled in my opinion when you had the interference of James Storm and then Bully Ray. Sorry, Bully, I love you, but this week you were in some bad segments. To me, a match like a tables match, and I've said this again and again, and it's a pet peeve of mine. Specialty matches like no disqualification, tables match, cage match, no count out, falls count anywhere, ladder match, whatever you want it to be. Dog chain match, whatever. Those are meant to be feud enders. Not something where Bobby Roode and Gunner really don't have any problem with each other. It kind of takes away from the importance of a match like that. You want to build to a match like that. You don't want that to be the first matchup the guys have with each other, in my opinion. To me, it breaks a little bit of the psychology and you throw away. When you do want to use something like that as a feud ender, it's not as special. Now, coming off of that, same reason. We have Abyss versus Eric Young in a Monsters Ball match. No hype for it, no build-up. End of the match tonight, they're going to have a Monsters Ball. Why? Why do they need a Monsters Ball? Why can't Abyss and Eric Young wrestle normal and there be a DQ that leads us to a Monsters Ball? It makes no sense that, like I said, you put the gimmick matches on so that you sell for that gimmick. You put that on a pay-per-view or a big show. Or you say in 3 weeks from now on Impact Wrestling, Abyss is going to fight Eric Young in Monsters Ball. You build the hype up because people are like, oh, that's interesting. I want to see that. Then when it finally comes on, you've built your fan base. Now, I kind of understand why they did this one. They wanted to build Eric Young and move him more away from the goofy character that we've seen him play for years and years. So, makes a little bit of sense. The fact that you're giving this away with no pre-hype doesn't, though. Next up, we're going to go to the bad portion of the night. Yet again. No disqualification match, Velvet Sky versus Madison Rain. Now, while there's been a little bit of a build-up with this feud, I don't see that it's raised to the level of a no DQ match. This one, specifically, the difference between this and the ones that made it to the so-so portion is this was pretty listless and pretty, I don't know, it just was bad, really. The match didn't have no flow to it. It didn't feel like it ever got off the ground. Madison picks up the win after Velvet and Angelina Love try to attack her and cheat. To me, it's just, it hasn't been built up enough. It wasn't done properly. And again, we get for the 3 matches on one show that have a gimmick to them. And to me, I mean, and questionably we have another one later that we're going to talk about in a second. But to me, it's things like this, little things, that could take you from being a successful company to being a company that's not so successful. I mean, you're giving away 3 specialty matches on a regular show with little to no build-up. Now, coming off of that, we had a handicap match, which I don't really consider a specialty match. We had Rockstar Spud and Ethan Carter III versus Willow. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I know I'm not the only one. I have nothing against Jeff Hardy. If he wrestled this match as Jeff Hardy, it would have been okay to me. I don't get what the difference is between Willow and Jeff Hardy. What's the difference? He brings an umbrella and wears a mask instead of painting his face. He wears a Jeff Hardy t-shirt. He wears the same pants he wears when he wrestles as Jeff Hardy. I don't get it. I don't understand why we're indulging in this Willow character that isn't any different than Jeff Hardy. If you're going to have a separate character, and I know I've said this before, and I know I keep harking on this, but it bothers me this bad. If you have something like you had Cactus Jack turned into Mankind. Now, you could say they were pretty similar, but he added different moves, different finishers, different promo style to it. Mankind becomes Dude Love. Totally different. Total different promo style, different music, different attire, different actions. Then you sprinkle in Cactus Jack. Again, something totally different from both of those. When you do these split personalities, and even though it went on longer than it should have, a perfect example is Abyss and Joseph Park. You had 2 totally different things. They wrestled differently. Yes, there were the things when he would see blood and turn into Abyss. However, that worked with that gimmick. For Willow to work, it needs to not be Jeff Hardy's moveset. It needs to be Willow's moveset. He needs to wrestle differently. He needs to do different spots. Just my opinion. After the match, we see Kurt Angle come out to re-engage his feud with Ethan Carter III, which is kind of funny that Willow can dispose of Ethan Carter and Rockstar Spud like they're nothing, yet Kurt Angle's struggling with them. Just observations, folks. Next up, we have our question of the week. The question of the week from last week is, what wrestler on the TNA roster is in most need of a gimmick change? First up, we have Jacob Bradley 67's answer. Question of the week. I would love to see them repackage MVP and Willow. I really want the director of wrestling operations to just wrestle and want Willow to be Jeff. I'd love to see the Hardy Boys again, and in parentheses, he's a Mark. Kind of what I just touched on. If Willow and Jeff Hardy are not different, there's no reason for him to not to be Jeff Hardy. And I agree with your MVP just wrestling. However, if I was to make him just a wrestler, I'd appoint somebody as a director of wrestling operations. To me, they should be 2 separate things. Unless you're a heel. And he's not, or at least they haven't turned him that way yet. Next up is from our friend Zombies 40. Robbie's gimmick is just played out and dated. He needs to switch it up. Fair assessment. I think he's a much better wrestler than the gimmick they give him. Next is from our friend Silver84. I think Gail has been a heel for far too long and is just stale as a character. I think her as a face would help a lot. I actually agree. I think the fans want to cheer for Gail. I think she's such a good talent that why wouldn't you cheer for her? And the thing of it is, they're not giving us a reason to. Let us cheer for her. Let us, pull and cheer. I mean, I agree. She definitely is in need of it. Last but not least, our good friend Closure Damas. Willow, we all know it's Jeff Hardy. And see, that's what I was getting at with when I was talking with the Willow character. I'm going to take it a little bit different because a couple other people covered the one that I think should be most changed, and that's Willow. Make Willow different than Jeff Hardy. We'll leave it at that. Mine, I'm going to go with Magnus. Now, not so much a gimmick change, but a booking change for Magnus. Over the past 2 years leading up to his world title run, he was booked as being someone that's going to be a future world champion. And rightfully so. The guy's got charisma, the guy's got talent, he's got a look, he's got everything you would want to be a world champion. Then they book him in as a world champion and give him one of the weakest world championship runs I've ever seen. He did not win one match without the help of outside interference. And not just a little bit, a whole lot of outside interference. Gang warfare, basically, is how he would win. To me, they got to build him up to where could stand on his own again, whether it be heel or face. A Magnus that is tough and unstoppable could be a guy that you build your company around for the next 7-8 years. Just my opinion. Now, coming off of that, we're going to do our question of the week for next week. What do you think the best thing about TNA is right now? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, put it down where? Down in the comments. Now let's go right into the good segment of the night. Normally I'm not a fan of these confrontational segments, but this one was rather good because of the people involved. MVP and Austin Aries have a stare down. Aries asks why it hasn't been on TV. MVP explains it's because you double-crossed me. I think it's a good idea, and I like the fact that Aries played it up saying I'm not going to brawl you now when I can wrestle you next week, and I'm a better wrestler than you. A good way to start their thing, a good way to bring Aries back on the television. One of the true, really great wrestlers in TNA. I think he really, to me it's been missing not having him on the show, and bringing him back is going to help out a lot. Next up, we have the Wolves versus the Bromans, which ends in a DQ when Zema Ion interferes. I think I'm really enjoying this feud, and I'm really enjoying what they're doing with the feud, how they're building it, and how they're making it to where the Bromans are weaseling their way out of losing the titles to the Wolves. I think eventually it's gonna lead to a pay-per-view match. Like I said before, this is how you build it. When you get to the pay-per-view, you make the match no disqualification. You bar DJ Zema from the ringside, or put him in a cage a la Jim Cornette. Something like that. Then the fans get that. You get to the point where they get to the build, and then they hit their spot. It gives it reason, it gives it purpose, it gives us a great thing to go with. Next up, we have Kenny King comes out, says a little spiel about the X Division and how he should be the next contender, joins the commentary team, does a fantastic job on commentary. I thought him and Taz had some great chemistry, and I know they go back to the Tough Enough days. It also helped out with the match we had in the ring, which is the second of a 3-part series between Tiger Uno and Sonata. Two guys that I'm really high on, two guys that I think are going to be awesome additions to the TNA roster and any wrestling roster they're in. I know Sonata's basically a loner, but we could see him where he gets loaned quite often. I'd be very happy with that. And Tigre Uno, to me, I didn't see much of him as Extreme Tiger. I just seen some highlights. But to me, he has that innate charisma like a Rey Mysterio Jr. Now, is he going to pan out and be the next Rey Mysterio Jr.? I don't know. But he has that to me. When I see him on the screen, he reminds me of Ray so much when Ray was a younger wrestler. Tigre Uno picks up the win, even at 1-1. We all knew that would happen. They're gonna have a best of 3 and make it go to 3, folks. It's not gonna be a shutout. But I think that was personally my favorite part of the show. I hope it was you guys' too. Now, coming off of that, we're gonna go into our ratings for the week. If you watched the show before, you know we have a 1 to 5 scale. 1 is the worst, 5 is the best. 1 is a Garrett Bischoff, 2 is a Jesse Goddard, 3 is a James Storm, 4 is a Christopher Daniels, 5 is a Bobby Roode. I'm going to give this show a 3 at James Storm. Very middle of the road. A lot of wasted gimmick matches. Could have been better. The week before, I thought they had an excellent show. This week, they dropped the ball. The thing with TNA is they need to build consistency. We need 5-6 weeks of good shows in a row. And then if you have a bad show, it's not that bad. If we only have 1 or 2 weeks of good shows followed by a bad show, the bad show sticks out more. You know, everybody's going to have a bad show, whether it's TNA, WWE, Ring of Honor. Every wrestling promotion that's ever been has had bad shows. The way you mask them is surrounded by quality shows. And give us fans something that we're going to forget. I mean, if this bad show was an anomaly, if there was only 1 bad show a month, we'd forget about it that it was bad. However, it seems to be the pattern that they follow up a good show. Usually the live show is very good. The tape shows are subpar. But basically, that's what I have to say about that. My name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Heel Heat.